People move to this city thinking they're being smart. That's the important part. This isn't a story about reckless decisions or financial ignorance. It's about people who ran the numbers, compared rents, checked listings, and told themselves they found a workaround, an affordable city, lower housing costs, a chance to breathe, a reset. At first, it feels like relief. Rent is cheaper. Homes look attainable. The paycheck stretches further than it did before. Friends back home say you made a smart move. Online articles rank the city as up and coming or best value. Everything confirms the decision. Nothing feels wrong yet. That's how the drain works, quietly. The first year usually goes fine, sometimes great. People decorate, settle in, feel proud of themselves for escaping expensive markets. But slowly, almost invisibly, the math starts changing, not in dramatic ways, in small, constant ones. The kind that don't trigger panic, just pressure. Wages don't grow the way people expected. Job options feel narrower than advertised. Career mobility slows. Raises come smaller and slower. Opportunities exist, but they're limited. Specialized roles are rare. Networking circles are tight. You realize that the salary you accepted wasn't just a starting point. It's closer to a ceiling. Then the secondary costs show up. Transportation gets more expensive because everything is spread out and commutes get longer. Gas becomes a line item you didn't think much about before. Car maintenance shows up more often. Suddenly, part of what you saved on housing is being rerouted elsewhere. Healthcare access feels different, fewer options, longer waits, insurance networks that don't quite match what you had before. You don't feel unsafe, you feel constrained. That's the pattern. Nothing is catastrophic. Everything is just slightly worse than expected. Social life changes too. Fewer free options, less diversity in activities, more spending to feel entertained. You drive more to see friends. You spend more to feel like you're doing something. Cheap housing doesn't mean cheap living when the city isn't designed for density or spontaneity. What really accelerates the drain is time. After 2 or 3 years, people notice they're not just saving less than expected. They're stuck. Moving again feels expensive. Selling feels premature. Renting elsewhere feels like admitting the smart move wasn't that smart. So people stay, not because the city is great, but because leaving has friction. This is the core of a city trap. It doesn't trap you with high prices. It traps you with low expectations. It trades upside for predictability, comfort for growth, and that trade is rarely framed honestly. Cities like this are often marketed as opportunities, but function like plateaus. You land softly, then stop climbing. For people early in their careers, that plateau can cost years. For people mid-career, it can quietly cap lifetime earnings. But because daily life feels manageable, the cost stays hidden. There's also a psychological effect. When a city brands itself as affordable, people adjust their ambition downward without realizing it. They accept slower growth because the environment feels calmer, less competitive, less urgent. That calm is appealing at first, but urgency is often what drives progress. Another part no one mentions is how these cities treat renters versus owners. Property taxes rise quietly. Insurance costs fluctuate more than expected. Local fees appear. Infrastructure ages. Maintenance gets deferred. The city doesn't collapse. It just slowly asks more from you while offering the same. People who bought homes expecting appreciation realize the market moves sideways, not crashing, not booming, just flat. Equity grows slowly, if at all. Meanwhile, capital that could have been flexible is locked into an asset that doesn't create momentum. The most dangerous thing about these cities is that they feel reasonable. Nothing screams bad decision. There's no obvious villain. Just a steady sense that effort isn't translating the way it should. That life is comfortable, but oddly heavy. That something is being drained, even if you can't name it yet. And because the city was labeled affordable, people blame themselves. They assume the issue is budgeting, discipline, motivation, not the environment, not the structure, not the trade-offs baked into the location. That self-blame keeps people quiet. It keeps them from comparing notes, from asking harder questions, from noticing patterns. But when you look closely, the pattern is everywhere. People working hard, living modestly, and still feeling behind, not broke, just stalled. This is why affordability alone is a dangerous metric. Cheap entry doesn't equal strong future. Lower costs don't guarantee upward mobility. And a city that makes it easy to arrive doesn't always make it easy to grow. What drains people isn't the price tag. It's the missed acceleration. The years where momentum could have been built somewhere else. The opportunities that never appeared. The optionality that quietly disappeared. And the worst part is that most people don't realize it until much later. When moving again feels risky. When restarting feels exhausting. When the affordable choice starts feeling expensive in ways no spreadsheet warned them about. We're not even at the most important layer yet. Because the real drain isn't just financial. It's psychological. And once that starts, it changes how people see their future. The real mechanism behind these cities isn't affordability. It's compression. They compress ambition, options, and long-term upside into something that feels manageable in the short term. People don't move there to get rich. They move there to stop bleeding. And that's exactly why the trade-off works so well. When someone escapes an expensive city, they're usually exhausted. High rent, competition, long hours, constant pressure. An affordable city feels like relief. And relief lowers your guard. You stop questioning aggressively. You stop planning 5 or 10 years ahead. You start optimizing for comfort instead of trajectory. That shift is subtle, but expensive. In higher opportunity cities, friction is obvious. You feel it every month. But friction also signals value. It forces growth, negotiation, skill stacking, and career movement in affordable cities. Friction is lower, but so is feedback. You don't feel punished for stagnating. Time passes quietly. This is where people confuse peace with progress. Peace is valuable. But peace without momentum slowly becomes stagnation, and stagnation doesn't announce itself. It just blends into routine. Weeks turn into years before anyone asks, is this still moving me forward? Another hidden factor is employer concentration. Affordable cities often rely on a small number of dominant industries or employers. That limits bargaining power. If you want to switch jobs, your options are thinner. If you want to negotiate salary, the leverage isn't there. Employers know people move there for cost of living. That becomes baked into compensation. This doesn't mean people are underpaid. It means they're capped. Growth becomes incremental instead of exponential over time. That difference compounds massively. To people with similar skills can end up in completely different financial realities. Based solely on environment, then there's the lifestyle creep that looks harmless. Bigger apartment, extra room, garage, yard. These things feel like upgrades, and they are. But they also anchor you. More space invites more stuff, more maintenance, more fixed costs. The very affordability that attracted you encourages expansion that quietly eats flexibility. Once that expansion happens, leaving gets harder. Downsizing feels like loss. Moving feels disruptive. The affordable city becomes a comfortable cage, not locked, but padded, soft enough that you don't fight it, strong enough that you don't escape easily. Social circles reinforce this. When everyone around you made the same move for the same reasons. The environment normalizes the outcome. People compare within the same ceiling. No one feels dramatically behind, so no one feels urgency. Comfort becomes the shared standard. Another overlooked drain is exposure. Affordable cities often have less exposure to fast-moving ideas, industries, and people who are building aggressively. That exposure matters. It reshapes how people think about what's possible. Without it, ambition shrinks naturally. Without resistance, none of this means people in these cities are lazy or unmotivated. Many are working incredibly hard. The issue is that effort alone doesn't create acceleration. Direction and environment matter just as much. Pushing hard in a low upside environment still results in low upside. What makes this particularly dangerous is that spreadsheets won't warn you. Cost of living calculators look great. Housing ratios look healthy. Monthly budgets balance. Everything appears responsible. But long-term opportunity cost doesn't show up in monthly cash flow. That's why people stay longer than they plan. Just one more year becomes 5. We'll move once things pick up becomes indefinite. And because nothing is obviously wrong, people don't feel justified in leaving. This is the defining trait of a city trap, not crisis. Comfort without growth, stability without upside, a slow drain that feels like maturity. The city doesn't fail you. It delivers exactly what it promises: affordable living, predictable routines, manageable stress. What it doesn't advertise is what it quietly withholds: velocity, exposure, leverage, optionality. And once people notice that something is missing, they're often too embedded to act quickly. Assets are tied up, relationships are rooted, identity has adapted. The cost of change feels heavier than the cost of staying, even when staying is what's doing the damage. That's why these cities continue to attract new people. Fresh arrivals still feel the relief. They haven't felt the drain yet. They still compare backward instead of forward, and the cycle repeats. But the most important thing to understand is this: the drain isn't permanent if it is recognized early. Awareness changes how you use a city, how long you stay, what you expect from it, and how deliberately you plan your exit or leverage. We're not done yet. The final piece is understanding how to evaluate a city beyond affordability, and how to avoid mistaking short-term relief for long-term alignment. That's where clarity replaces regret. The goal isn't to escape affordable cities. The goal is to understand them. A city isn't good or bad on its own. It's a tool, and like any tool, it works differently depending on when and how you use it. The problem starts when people confuse short-term relief with long-term alignment. Affordability is a starting condition, not a strategy. It tells you how easy it is to arrive, not how far you can go once you're there. Cities that multiply people tend to do 3 things quietly. They expose you to opportunity, reward skill growth, and keep exits open. Cities that drain people tend to do the opposite, even if they feel comfortable. The first signal to watch isn't housing prices. It's mobility. How easy is it to change jobs without changing cities? How many employers compete for the same skill set? How fast do salaries adjust upward when demand increases? If the answer is slow, the city may be affordable but compressive. The second signal is exposure. Who do you meet without trying? What kinds of conversations are normal? Are people building, experimenting, failing, and trying again? Or are they mostly stabilizing, settling, and maintaining? Exposure shapes ambition. It quietly recalibrates what you think is realistic. Without it, growth becomes self-limited. The third signal is optionality. If you wanted to leave in 2 years, could you? Not emotionally, financially. Could you sell or exit without major loss? Could you rent your place without stress? Could you relocate without resetting your life completely? Cities that trap people make exits expensive. Cities that multiply people keep exits flexible. This is where many people realize the mistake wasn't moving to an affordable city. It was assuming affordability was the win. Relief is not the same as progress. Relief lowers stress. Progress increases capacity. You need both, but in the right order. For some people, an affordable city is exactly what they need for a season: to recover, to reset, to pay down debt, to stabilize mentally. There's no shame in that. The trap appears when the season turns into permanence without intention. The question isn't, is this city cheap? It's, is this city increasing my leverage? Leverage comes from skill demand, network density, and capital mobility. If those aren't growing, affordability becomes a ceiling instead of a foundation. This is also why buying too early in these cities can backfire. Homeownership increases friction. It slows movement. It ties you to a market that may not reward patience. Equity growth looks safe. But safety without momentum is just slow erosion. People often say, at least my cost of living is low. But low compared to what and for how long? A low cost of living and a low upside environment doesn't automatically beat a higher cost of living and a high upside one. The difference shows up over decades, not months. The real danger is staying because leaving feels awkward, not because staying is aligned. When decisions are driven by comfort and fear instead of clarity, regret follows quietly. Not explosive regret, lingering regret, the kind that shows up as restlessness and doubt. Clarity changes that. When you understand what a city gives and what it takes, you stop expecting it to be something it's not. You either use it intentionally or you plan your next move early. Both are wins. This isn't about chasing the hottest markets or the most expensive zip codes. It's about understanding environment as a multiplier. Some environments amplify effort, others absorb it. Working hard in the wrong environment doesn't make you noble. It makes you tired. The American dream sold location as a backdrop. In reality, location is an active participant in your financial life. It shapes income, opportunity, and freedom far more than most people realize. Ignoring that doesn't make it irrelevant. It just makes it invisible. The people who avoid city traps aren't smarter or braver. They just ask different questions earlier. They don't ask where life is cheaper. They ask where effort travels further. And once you start asking that, affordability becomes just one variable, not the headline. Cities don't drain people. Misaligned expectations do. When you align location with trajectory instead of comfort, the drain stops, not because life gets easier, but because progress becomes visible again. That's the difference between surviving somewhere and growing somewhere. And once you understand the difference, you never choose a city the same way again.